Hello friends, hope all of you are doing great. Today we are going to cover yet another interesting topic, pod-based delivery model. So nowadays, often from my practical experience, I'm seeing right people are interchangingly using the term agile team, scrum team, pod, squad, right, as if they are synonyms, and that is the biggest mistake we are doing actually. So in this video, I'll try to cover up the pod based delivery model and what is pod and what are the difference between pod and the agile team or other teams, right? And I hope this will be interesting and useful for your day-to-day life for practical purpose also when you are going to manage any particular agile project or any particular agile team. So let's get started. So without any further delay, let's get started. Let us first try to understand what is pod. Okay, so knowingly or unknowingly, like we are interchangingly using the term pod, then Scrum team, squad, and we are mixing up, right? So we first need to understand what is pod. So basically, pod should have all these 10 characteristics in it, right? Unless and until you are having all of them, you cannot term that particular team as pod. For example, a pod should be self-enabled, a pod should be product focused. That means product centric mindset the pod should have with product management and engineering expertise in place. Then the pod should be cross skilled. If a pod should be T-shaped and full stack. T-shaped means like in a particular one or two skill, the team member should have in-depth knowledge, and other skills they should have sufficient amount of knowledge to deliver. Right? The pod should be cohesive, empowered, high performing, enduring, balanced, and distributed team with shared context and common goals. Right? So we need to set up our expectation accordingly, right? That at a pod, unless and until it is having all these characteristics in place, we cannot say we have actually implemented or we have built up a proper pod, right? So this is, I'm just trying to give you a view, right? How the team makes, or how what will be the combination of a pod team members. So a pod should be built up in such a way so that by its own the pod should be in a position to take the delivery ownership end to end. That means whatever is required to deliver a particular product, the pod should have all the required skill set, the cross skill. For example, Scrum Master who will be anchoring, then UI UX designer, quality engineer, developer, again quality engineer, product owner, CI/CD to maintain the CI/CD stuff, the DevOps engineer, everything can be part of pods, right? So these are the indicative roles you can tweak based on your project need. So the main pod mainly focus on pair programming, right? The best in class extreme programming recommended methodologies: pair programming, then TDD, test driven development, continuous improvement, continuous delivery, CI/CD. The empathy part should be in place, like pod members should have empathy on each other and also on the customer. Then it should be lean setup without or minimal wastage. Then the pod should be design thinking focus. So we can have a separate topic altogether on design thinking, but just to understand, as part of this particular presentation, design thinking is basically customer focused thinking, customer focused design. And when we are thinking about this about any design, it should be keeping in mind the entire system, not the particular piece or not the particular module. Okay, then the pod should have the consistency, the constant speed of velocity, constant speed of delivery. It should be autonomous. It should have the autonomy. That means they should be able to take their own decisions, right? And the team learning, that means continuous learning should be in place, right? And what does a pod should ensure, right? Obviously delivery, right? But alongside delivery, pod should be uh, imposing the engineering best in class engineering excellences, high quality and speed to value, and this will be the KPI of a pod, right? So when we are going for a pod based model, we should have a clear understanding, and accordingly we should set up the expectation. It should not happen that eventually on ground we are basically building one agile team who are having some of the characteristics but not all of them, and we are expecting uh, the level of uh, pod based pod based delivery from that particular team, right? That is not going to happen eventually, right? So we as a program manager or as a project manager, we should be clear, we should have clear vision what is pod and what I should expect out of it, and what is other scrum team or agile team and what I should expect out of that. So to understand, let us see what are the difference between pod versus the agile teams, right? This is a very important topic, so let us focus on, right? So if I so I have segregated, I have tried to segregate the differences with some factors. So first factor is basically skill set. So agile teams are cross functional, that all of us know, right? But pods are high performing agile team consisting of T-shaped and cross skill full stack engineers. That means a pod is all by its own. It's all rounder, right? It should have T-shaped skill, cross skilled with full stack engineer. That means to deliver a particular product end to end, whatever is required, it should be there in pod, right? Then maturity and engineering practices. Agile teams maturity, gradually we do the measurement, and it is often noticed that in succession of 6 to 12 months, some of the team members are becoming T-shaped or cross-skill, but not all the team members are focusing on the engineering practices at the early stages. But whereas the pod demonstrate just completely different opposite of this, right? From the first phase itself, like pod started demonstrating the high maturity level, and they started leveraging the engineering excellence right from the initial phase of the project delivery. Pod practices the extreme programming XP practices like pair programming, collective code ownership, CI/CD, then coding standard, refactoring, TDD, and so on and so forth, right? So all the best-in-class engineering practices are in place, and they and that makes the pod high-performing one from almost from the day one, right? Then team size. Mostly the agile teams are, as Scrum recommended, 7 to 9 team members, whereas pod is much more lean. So we try to eliminate the waste from pod, and it is mostly 4 to 6 team members. Then the composition of the other team members are mostly Scrum based, whereas the pod based are basically it should have solution engineering, shared service based pods, right? Then responsibility wise, a agile team or any other team, I mean other than pods, it may or may not have the end-to-end responsibilities, right? A particular team can be looking into a particular model or particular issue or anything of that sort. But whereas pod is solely responsible for end-to-end delivery of a product, right? And it should have the end-to-end responsibility of delivering a microservices or a feature to satisfy the business requirement at its entirety, right? Then operating model, this may be little subjective, but based on my experience, what I have seen, mostly the agile teams best suit for the staff augmentation kind of project or TNM. And if we are going for fixed price of project, then it should be fixed capacity. If we are going for managed services, it should be outcome based, right? Whereas pods are basically we can go for the managed services, both outcome and output based, right? KPI for agile teams are output and outcome based. Now, what is KPI for pod? Definitely outcome, I mean output is definitely one of the KPI, but that is not the primary KPI. It is taken for granted that delivery has to happen, but it should be with high productivity and high quality. That's the key KPI of pod, right? And we using all the best in class engineering practices and all the checks and balances and all the checks, quality checks get it, pods are in a position to deliver with high productivity and as much as accuracy possible from quality perspective. So these are the few key differences between pod and agile teams. I hope this is giving you the perspective what you should actually expect when you are forming a pod, when or what you should expect when you are forming any other teams, right? Now let us see, there are different kinds of pods in are there, right? I have tried to list down uh, widely used pods. Like one is pair programming pods. Basically, these pod uses the uh, XP recommended pair programming methodology. This is best suitable for the complex. I mean, the project which are evolutionary in nature, right? Basically, that means it is having complex requirement which is evolving day by day, right? And it has basically emerging technologies and problem solving capabilities is required. So for such kind of project, we go for pair programming, where we pair up the developer with anchor or developer with developer, designer with developer, UX and UI with developer, and so on and so forth, with different combinations, so that there are multiple eyes are, and hands are there to ensure all the requirements are covered end to end with the qualities in place. So that's the main motto, and it solely anchored by the product manager, who is having the entire product vision in mind. Okay, now diamond shaped pod is another kind of pod, the project which are dealing with the feature heavy use cases or user stories, right? So for that, a specific quality engineer roles are implemented in this particular pod, who will be responsible to have different kinds of testing automation and different kinds of quality checks get in place to ensure the best in class quality product, and where the product is basically feature heavy, but the implementation do not need pair programming kind of structure. So for such project, we can go for diamond pod. Now another kind of pod is basically distributed pod. Here we need to understand, it is not the onshore offshore model we are talking about, right? Whereas our team is at offshore and a couple of team members are there on site. That is not the case here. We are talking about here we are talking about when a complete, I mean, full set of pods are basically located in different geographies or different time zones, right? And that particular time zone is also having the entire pod structure. That means to deliver end to end, whatever the roles we talked about, that particular locations also having the same set of combinations of roles in their pod structure, right? And that is what we have, I mean, that is what we are calling as distributed pod. At the end of the day, the pods may be located or situated at different time zones or different locations, but they are having or going for a common goal, right? That is what a distributed pod is. So I hope you are getting a fair amount of idea how you can form your pod. These are just the indicative models. So it not necessarily you have to fit your pod into any of them. It's not like that. You can go for any of the pod models, pair programming model, diamond shape model, distributed model, or you can do a little bit tweak here and there to make up your model. But at the end of the day, the main criteria what we need to I mean what we should keep in our mind, that a pod should be able to deliver or should be able to take the responsibility and ownership of end-to-end product delivery. It should comprise of all the required skill set in place, and it should basically implement all the best in class engineering practices possible. Okay, now let us quickly see some of the common recommended roles, but you can have different roles also. The recommended roles for pods are basically the product manager, engineering manager. You can term that as pod leaders. There can be principal engineer, so you can term this engineering lead, technology anchor, technology lead designer. Then you will have developer. Other names can be full stack engineer, engineer, senior engineer, and there can be other additional roles, test automation engineer. So basically this is what is required for your diamond pod. Other names is basically quality engineer, UI UX specialist, architect, quality manager. So these are the recommended roles, but not necessarily these are the only roles. You can have different roles, or you can drop some of the roles from here based on your need. Now let us see some of the key benefits of pod. So I think we have already talked about or touched upon some of them. So velocity stabilization, mostly within the third sprint itself, the velocity basically gets stabilized for a pod and start increasing, and it is expected by first year 20 to 30% increase in the velocity. Then you will have an expectation of 95% sprint commitment. Reliability, that means if a pod is committing 100 story point per sprint, that then that particular pod is going to achieve more than 95%. That means greater than equal to 95% of the story point for that particular sprint, right? And implementing the best in class engineering practices that we have already talked about. So I mean, all the recommended XP recommended engineering practices a pod should bring into the table, and more than 85% of the core coverage by third sprint itself. So these are the key benefits of pod. There will be many more. Now let us see the key elements of the pod. So we have already talked about this. This is just a quick recap. So the pod should be product focused. That means customer centric, product centric mindset should be there, and product management and engineering expertise should be incorporated within the pod. Then pod should be cross functional, design, full stack engineer, quality engineer, DevOps. That means to deliver end-to-end product, whatever is required, that particular rules or skill set should be there as part of the pod. Then the pod is agile. That means self-governed, T-shaped, skilled, nimble, lean setup with minimal waste should be there. Technical excellence, agile, DevOps engineering practices, cloud native technologies, everything should be included as part of the pod, bring to the table, right? Then continuous improvement mindset, the collaborative, I mean, continuous inspect and adapt kind of mindset should be there. As I mentioned in my previous sessions also, to me, agile means continuous learning. Here, the pod also demonstrate the same, right? Continuous improvement mindset, continuous learning, and continuous improvement, like through the games of pod. So this games of pod is again we can cover as part of a different topic altogether. Then the it should be structured around project, and client business KPI and target outcome should always be in front of a pod, and that should also be their KPI as well. So that is how the entire pod is focused on, and these are the key elements of pod, we can say. So I hope this is in a nutshell that I wanted to cover, and it is pretty much giving you a high level or pretty much good idea what is a pod based delivery model. Not every team is a pod, so whenever we are going for a proposal or whenever we are building up a team, we should be very clear what is pod. Unless and until we have a fair amount of understanding, we will not be able to set up the expectation properly, and incorrect expectation will lead to the hiccups in delivery. So whenever we are going for a pod based delivery model, we need to keep all these things in mind, and I hope it will be really helpful for all of you. So thank you for watching this video. I hope this was useful for you, and we'll see you quickly in another video. Till then, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay tuned. Thank you all.